Hello, welcome to the shop. Welcome to WIWT. It's been a few weeks since I posted, so I've got something of somewhat larger stature to share. So, new video. It's going to be pretty short, I would imagine. I'm not going to go into this a whole lot. So in my intro video, I mentioned that I was going to build a tube frame track car. And I have all the tubing for it. I have the engine for it, which is a 5-cylinder, 2.5 liter Volkswagen inline engine. The original intent was to build what's called a Midlana. If you go to midlana.com, you can find out all about them. It's one guy made this, designed this chassis. It's based around Miata suspension components, basically, and whatever engine and transaxle you want to put in. It's transverse mid-engine in the rear. A couple of issues that I had with it, though, is one, no offense to Kurt if he ever sees this, but they're kind of ugly. I had built a Lotus Super 7 replica at one point in time, and they're not the prettiest thing, and this is less pretty. So my intention all along was to build bodywork for it. The problem is that I know my limitations. I've been around restoration for quite a long time. I did it professionally for 10 years, and well, bodywork's not my thing. I'm the machinist, mechanic, fabrication guy. While I've picked the bodywork guy's brains to death, and I worked with some very good ones, it's a physical skill like anything else, like welding or machining or anything else, and unless you do a lot of it, you're not very good at it. That's kind of where I'm at with welding too, although I've done a lot more of that. So I started thinking to myself, well, if you don't want to build bodywork, and I really don't want to build anything from scratch out of fiberglass, because it's incredibly messy, and anybody who's ever worked with fiberglass will tell you how little fun it is. So I said, well, okay, I want to build a tube frame mid-engine car to use on the track. Looked back at a lot of the cars I've owned. I'm at 48 now, I think. In 42 years of driving, so, you know. And I thought, well, okay, what kind of sheep's clothing could we cloak a tube frame track car in that's light, that's easy to get parts for, easy to adapt, easy to modify, has the correct dimensions that I need, that it can be made wide enough, it can be made, there's enough room for the engine in front of the transaxle behind the front seats, which rules out almost all front-wheel drive cars, unfortunately. There's lots of pretty lightweight old Hondas and things that would make great sleepers, that would be reasonably easy to adapt. I have a friend who years and years ago made a mid-engined 84 Civic hatchback with an Acura V6 mid-engine. And it was in magazines and all kinds of stuff. Really, really one of my mentors for fabricating car stuff, named Andy Barczyk, and he has gone on to better things, but a very long time ago, I was very impressed with the amount of work and the amount of how nice it turned out. However, I'd really rather not do a transverse setup. I'd really rather have a longitudinal setup. It gives you better weight distribution. Like Midlanas tend to be about 40-60, which is a little bit rear heavy. It's not as bad as a 911, say, or even other cars of rear engine persuasion, but it's still a little on the heavy side in the rear for a mid-engine car. Really optimally, you want somewhere 55 to 57% rear weight. So again, I started thinking to myself, what's got some room between the back of the door and the center line of the axle, and what can I find cheap You know, I mean, there's probably lots of things that I can spend a lot of money on to just so I can cut it up. And I came to a decision a couple of months ago, and yesterday I found the victim. Serious project. So without further ado, let me spin this around and get a little further away so you can see. What we have here is a 1973 standard Beetle. I haven't named it yet. We're thinking maybe, you know, probably should be some sort of German name, but I haven't quite figured it out yet. In any case, this is actually the second Beetle I've made for the track. The other one had Beetle suspension and engine. It was rear engine. And it was quite amusing because I actually got that to handle well enough to beat up on the Audis that I was instructing at Audi Club events when I was instructing for those. And it was well received. Everybody was like, ha ha ha, a Beetle. And then they saw how fast it went around corners. It was still exceptionally slow in a straight line because the first time I took it out on track, it was a 1300 single port. So you can imagine how slow that was in a straight line. But then you'd just pass people in the corners and they'd be like amazed. In any case, this won't have those issues because it should tip the scales right around 1,800 pounds. I'll be losing weight in the suspension on this. I'll be gaining some weight in the engine, in transaxle. There'll be a cage, obviously a full cage. I'll lose some weight off the floor probably. But in any case, I'm hoping to end up right around stock weight for one of these, which is my old one was a 67, and it on scales was in the mid 1700s. So 1800 seems like a reasonable goal, and we'll see what we see. First thing I have to do is get a bunch of it torn apart, get all the interior out, and decide how I'm going to fabricate the tube frame. I've got some ideas, but without tearing into it further, I won't know. And pick this up as a roller. No engine, but everything else is there and it's complete. Has a little bit of rust, as they usually do. The patch panels for these are stupidly cheap, so it's not a huge issue. Like the fenders are perfect. They're not going to be used. I'm going to have wider fenders, so I've got pieces I can sell off of it, things like that. So in any case, that's where we're at, and I will take you along for the journey as I convert this thing into a little monster that is usable on a racetrack. Anyway, I will talk to you all later, and thank you for watching. And if you want to see what happens with this crazy project, please subscribe and give me a like, and you'll see more. Thanks.